Look, so this is Tess Lowry's petition, and I actually signed this. I've actually signed it. But you can all petitions have to be amalgamated anyway, even if this is closed and potentially gets debated. Even if I had one signature on a petition, it has to be amalgamated. Or if I submit some evidence for a petition, she doesn't actually use the term WHO, World Health Organization. She says that IHR amendments, we are concerned that Parliament has not discussed and will not have a say on the 307 proposed amendments to the international health regulations, and the amendments to the 5 articles of the IHR were adopted by the 75th World Health Assembly on the 27th of May 2022. The amendments that were adopted on the 27th of May 2022 have not been debated in or voted on by UK Parliament. Has the authority to reject them under Article 61 of the IHR, but any such rejection must be within 18 months of their adoption. Parliament must be given the opportunity to vote on whether to reject the amendments that have already been adopted, and also the first 7 proposed amendments that are currently being negotiated by the UK delegates to the 76th World Health Assembly. The UK has not proposed any of the 307 amendments. So she got 116,390 signatures. So again, I'm not questioning Dr. Tess Lowry's knowledge of these documents and of reading them and of those regulations and of the World Health Organization, or her medical expertise, or any of the medical expertise of her academic colleagues. But none of them have read or studied the actual, just fundamental Statute of England and the history of England, and they are kind of dwelling on inside the paper, on the paper. They're not thinking off the page, and they're not thinking in context of other regulations and laws which are applicable and which govern everything. Now, all of this that's written out here, you have to fundamentally know the structure of it. What is actually really happening? So, the United Nations, of which the World Health Organization and so forth only exist because of our agreement to join and participate in those organizations, right? When they first drafted all of these laws and documents, why does it actually include from the start all our rights? It includes acknowledgement and compliance with all our rights in our respective countries. But why and how? They didn't just sit there and write it up out of fun, right? You have to understand, they include it to start with, not out of an option, not out of entertainment, because they have to. They can't not include it. It's exactly the same with YouTube trying to deny us rights when they've effectively claimed that we don't have rights, and even Biden has been telling them to take things down. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is challenging it. Not enough people have been challenging it. I found legislation which is undeniable for it. It's the exact same principle and analogy in effect here. Those rights that we've got and those liberties that we've got through the statutes, which these documents refer to, and we're going to cross out in their recommendations, right? There are several laws which I don't think Tess Lowry has read or understands. Yeah, I think that if she reads them, she can understand it. I think if Dr. Campbell's been made aware of them, he will understand it. And Andrew Bridgen. But again, Andrew Bridgen MP, he hasn't done anything for YouTube and our political rights on there. Now, he's just gave a commendable speech in Parliament, and he tried really, really hard to get that debate. He apparently got rejected over 20 times or something. So his efforts are commendable. He's introducing a new bill that he wants to bring legislation so they can't take our rights away. But I'm sorry to Andrew Bridgen, but there's already law in existence. He just doesn't know that law. His colleagues don't know that law. His MPs don't. But it's not just this. Out of all of the ministers in all of Parliament of England, not one of them has acted to try and get legal action against YouTube for the electors' videos, our petition, our campaign material. Yet David Davidson's channel gets taken down and someone contacts YouTube to get it put straight back up again, right? None of them. A lot of these ministers haven't got legal qualifications, or some of them haven't got any qualifications. And the Petitions Committee itself lies about things regularly, claims that it can't read anything, doesn't know what it says, when it is clear what it's asking on the petitions. Now, I commend Bridgen for all his hard work that he's done. I'm not saying that he hasn't worked hard, but his new bill is unneeded and pointless, because at the end of that 1700 Settlement Act, it clearly and explicitly states that our rights and liberties can't be taken away, and there's a duty and obligation for the monarch to protect them and Parliament, right? And that means not only that they're not allowed to take them away, a failure to act if someone else claims they're taking them away is effectively consenting to them being taken away. Well, they can't be taken away. Under the British Statute law, they can't be taken away from us, particularly by an other organisation or foreign authority, even if we're a member or not. And that's basically like YouTube. YouTube are only a corporate entity, a corporate company. And they've been trying to take our rights away, denying us our own rights in our own country. That's like the WHO. Parliament agreed to YouTube operating in England. Parliament agreed to having YouTube in England. Parliament agreed to us using that, uploading videos. And Parliament even used 77th Brigade and Battalion to tell YouTube to take things down. They're working with them. It's a foreign entity, corporate one. Now, we agree that we're going to be a member of YouTube, let them in our country, work with them. Not one MP has acted in all their academic skills and qualifications. None of them. No lawyer in England has done a voluntary legal case to YouTube. For all of us, none. It was Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the presidential candidate, who was the only person who's launched a legal case against YouTube and challenged them, right? Now, Senator Rand Paul has an interest in this WHO and all these World Health Organization affiliates here, who are claiming they're going to take the rights away. They're not. They're not going to take the rights away. They're not. Because they can't. They can say they've done it. They could even pretend they've done it. But in law, in the law, it hasn't been done, or not done lawfully, because they can't do it. They haven't got the legal right to do it. Now, there is an analogy in all of this, and I don't like pointing to television programs, but I actually also need to point this out, right? The Doctor Who program, you know, The Who, the Time Lords, the Doctors, The Who. You know, the Jodie Whittaker, she's from our area, although, you know, I don't know her personally, but they got her in on the program, and, you know, in the last series, the Halloween series, they got this big pincer, you know, like the toy grab machine when you like put some money in and it picks toys up with like the arm grab, like the arcades at the seaside or the cinema. You know, you pick the toy up and it gets the grab to grab the toy and pick it up. I did an investigation into those toy grab machines, and they were rigged. They were set up and they broke the rules of the gambling laws to do with chance and skill games. There's got to be a possibility that you can win. If it's set up so there isn't a chance to win, or you can't win it by skill, it's unlawful, it's illegal. And that was part of my investigation, right? And I've got the evidence on that. And nothing ever happened with that. That's part of the evidence of the wider campaign, right? But the BBC know about it. Now, in that Doctor Who programme, they put a scene in with like a big arm grabber machine over the top of John Bishop when he gets captured in the cage, right? And they were pointing that out. Now, Dr. John Campbell has been talking about this, and he's been saying the WHO and these other organisations written down here working together on these world health laws. He said they're doing this two actions, two movements, and he calls it a pincer grab. Dr. John Campbell refers to it as a pincer grab move, right? Now, that is relevant to The Who, Doctor Who, because they feature that very large pincer grab thing in one of the scenes of the latest series. And in particular to this, the takeover of the world by The Who. The Who are going to take over the world through these rights that are going to apparently affect all countries, right? Well, at the very, very end of the last series, right, and they're up against those Ravagers, you know, those Ravage entity creatures that, you know, travelling through time and so forth. Well, at the end, they take them on, and there's a scene at the end when they summon the leaders or the people in charge, right? The other, you know, Ravagers, and they're stood there with Jodie Whittaker, who's the Doctor, and then something weird happens, and these Overlord bad guys actually end up transforming into another Jodie Whittaker, into the Doctor, and it was meant to be her herself who was them. So it's like the Who are she was the Ravagers. So the Doctor Who, was the Ravagers bad guys. Turns out, just like a copy of herself. Now there's something in that. There's something in that to do with, you know, who's behind this WHO. Who are the Who? Who are behind the Who? You know, at the moment, Dr. Campbell and Bridgen and Lowry are all saying, you know, this Who are the bad guys, you know, but who are behind the Who? Now, in the programme, and by the way, I have to state that series of that programme, the Doctor Who series, has been addressing all of these issues that we're facing, all of the corrupt governments, all of the use of, like, technology for assimilation and so forth, and then, genetics in the labs. All of the issues that we're currently facing have been addressed in the themes of that program. So it's not irrelevant. It's not irrelevant. It's all been set out for a purpose. Now, the thing is this. It's the WHO, these organisations doing this double move, this double changes in two set of rules, so it makes it even harder for us to stop them, right? I truly believe that this pincer grab that Dr. Campbell refers to isn't legally valid. It's illegal. It's unlawful. And even if they claim they've picked up the toy with it, they've picked up us, the UK, with it, and grabbed us with their World Health Organization powers, we will slip out of their powers. Why? Because that 1700 Settlement Act says that they can't give our rights away. The King and Parliament, they don't have the authority to give those rights away. They can't. You've got to protect them. And to stand by if someone else claims they're taking them away is a failure to act. That's treason. It's subverting the liberties of the realm, as set out in the 1688 bill. Now, Andrew Bridgen, the hero that he is, I don't doubt he's a hero. I know that, he's been in Parliament. He's been an MP for a long time. He's done the most impossible feat ever to get a debate when it's been rejected, 20 odd times or whatever. But I'm not saying that his bill is entirely useless, but it's not needed. And to pretend that we would need his bill to be passed to protect us is a lie. That the Settlement Act and the rest of the statutes already prevent this government and monarchy from giving up our rights to any entity, whether it's YouTube, World Health Organization. It doesn't matter whether we're a member of the United Nations. And why did the United Nations have the rights clause in their policies in the first place? Not out of choice. They didn't all come together and draft it and say, like, pick and mix. We'll have this, we'll have that, we'll have this, we'll have that. We can have whatever we want. They didn't. They can't not have it in there. You cannot not have it in there. You can't not have it in there. There's no choice. They don't get to decide, shall we have it in there or not? And further to that, no minister in this government, whether academically qualified or not, whether he's got a D, a C, an F, a A, a dunce, or a degree, or a master's, or is a King's Counsel. None of them. Because you can't give up the rights. It's subverting the liberties of the realm, and it's treason. It doesn't matter whether I remember or not. And that is why those rights are in there in the first place, not because Parliament wanted them in there, not because the WHO or United Nations want them in there, because they can't not be in there. They cannot not be in there because we can't give them up. It's not possible. And unless someone says that, then people won't know it, least believe it. Now it's the same with YouTube. It's the same with the rights of camping on Dartmoor. And it's the same with Rees-Mogg on GB News when he's not allowed to be on there. If no one says anything about it, Now, I don't want no credit for it. I want Andrew Bridgen to do something about it. And I'm not saying his new bill is completely useless and pointless. It would be good to have some more clarified and thorough protections. But it's only going to be a reaffirmation. It's only going to be a reaffirmation because currently it's not being reaffirmed. It's not being acknowledged. And in America, Congress shall make no law. Congress shall make no law and also shall not agree to any law. I mean, Senator Rand Paul is not doing enough either. And I know that there's a lot of things that he can't do because, he's not been granted access to a lot of documents and so forth. He's only got limited powers in Congress. But there's one thing. If Senator Rand Paul, as a senator of the United States of America, is not convinced that Congress shall make no law to give up the rights and sure as hell shall not agree to any law, and shall not fail to act if someone tries to undermine a law, the WHO can't do it. They just can't remove that right because it's there in the first place because they didn't have a choice in the matter. Now, someone needs to do something about it. I don't think Bridgen's bill is pointless, but it's not needed. It's only going to be a reaffirmation, which, no one has done anything about YouTube. In fact, our government have worked against us, to be honest, and the Petitions Committee are sure as hell not helping us. So, this Tess Lowry petition, anyone can, even though this petition is closed, anyone can start another petition about it on similar matters. In fact, I might actually start a petition and, just so I can get it amalgamated with Tess Lowry's, or I should be able to amalgamate it anyway. But, I don't know how many videos I've got to make. I can't get in contact with anyone at the moment. It seems like it's obstructed, if I want to speak to John Campbell, he's got so many comments under his videos. Jeff Taylor. I mean, these people are complaining and grumbling about all these things, but you never once hear them say firmly and confidently, they cannot do this to us. And they will not. All they do is spread the thought forms, they're doing this to us and they're going to do it. They're doing this to us and they're going to do it. They're actually helping the government. In fact, on the Jimmy Dore show, his co-host, he's actually one of the only people now who's coming round about YouTube. He's like, what they're doing is illegal. It's illegal. What they're doing is illegal. It's illegal. I'm like, yes. I mean, this needs to be said. Jeff Taylor, he just needs to say it. What they're doing is illegal. They can't do it. That's what Tess Lowry needs to be saying. What they're doing is illegal. They can't do it. Now, if Tess Lowry doesn't think that it's illegal, and if she thinks they can do it, then I pity Tess Lowry because there's 116,390 people who don't want them to do it. But where is one of them saying, well, I'm one of those people. I'm one of the 116,390 people. And I'm saying they can't do it because it's illegal. They can't do it because it is illegal and treason. So I would suggest, unless you want every single minister in Parliament to be impeached because they're impeaching Trump. And in fact, in that 1700s Settlement Act of Scotland, it clearly, actually, it talks about impeachments of judges and ministers in Parliament and Lords. Talks about impeachments. And they should all be prosecuted, all of the MPs. If all these MPs refuse to act in the WHO, they should all be prosecuted and they should all be impeached. All of the whole of Parliament. And you know, Boris Johnson illegally prorogued Parliament. There's one muppet. They should all be prosecuted except Andrew Bridge and you know, except for the MPs who maybe turned up at his debate. You know? So we actually need some action. And the most ironic thing out of this is this, right? I'm sorry, but there is a connection between the World Health Organization and their planned global takeover strategy to the Doctor Who show and to the fact that, you know, we don't know who's behind BlackRock and Vanguard, and we don't know what's in Charles's will, but he's connected to the, you know, to the World Health Organization, and he's connected to the UN, United Nations, and to Klaus Schwab, you know, and the World Economic Forum, Blair. But we don't know. There's a lot hidden, and there's some sentiment. There is some poetic or artistic sentiment in that scene at the end of that Doctor Who when, you know, the overlords appear, these other Ravagers, the bigger Ravagers, and then it ends up transforming into the Doctor. But what is even more ironic is that this, the Who takeover and so forth, I found that I strongly believe that 1700 Settlement Act does protect from all foreign entities and interests trying to take our rights away. It makes it illegal. And ironically, after that series of Doctor Who is finished, they've got David Tennant materialising as the Doctor again, and he's Scottish. And that act that clearly states that we can't have our rights taken away, and that anyone in Parliament breaking the law, you know, that we've to, it's, you know, so there's some crossover there, and I don't think it's coincidence that they chose Tennant to come back in. I don't think it's coincidence that there's that double manoeuvre from them trying to take the rights and the whole thing, you know, Campbell's. That term's been thrown into the circles, the pincer grab or whatever. And I don't think that they can grab it. I don't think that the pincer grab will be valid. I think it will be illegal, like those gambling laws that actually made those toy machines invalid. And I think that Settlement Act actually, and the rest of the statutes clearly state that there's no authority to give those rights away or have them taken away by any means. And if our MPs fail to act, that is an illegal act. It's a treasonous act, is to fail to act. And I'm going to submit this video just because this is what we're dealing with. You know, I've had my investigation into corruption in the government. There are many other people with other investigations. We've got senators involved now. In America, we've got MPs involved in all these matters, you know, and it all ties together. And it's what the actual issue is just corruption. It's the same with the YouTube rights. They were trying to take away his rights on YouTube. No one would act in the government. That's a failure to act. So I'm going to be submitting these videos to the Judicial Office of Investigations just to show them what's happening, what the issues are. They're all tied together. Because in that act as well, it talks about the judges, you know, judges being impeached by either of the Houses of Parliament and so forth. It covers all those subjects. It covers the subjects of even the Judicial Office of Investigations. Investigating judges is covered in that act. So, you know, at the moment, I'm finding it hard to get my statements heard. I don't know whether I can mail them to Andrew Bridgen. I'm not a resident of Leicester, but apparently, you can still make complaints. Or John Campbell, but it needs to be said.